It happened at a family barbecue on a Saturday afternoon in July. The smell of charcoal mixed with the laughter of neighbors in Melissa's backyard. I was watching Darren flip burgers, taking his sweet time like always. "Those patties are going to be hockey pucks if you don't hurry up," I said with a chuckle, the same joke I'd made at every cookout for 3 years. Melissa's face twisted. "Dad, stop embarrassing us. It's just a joke, sweetheart." "No, it's not." She stepped closer, her voice sharp. "You always do this." Before I could ask what she meant, her hand slammed into my chest. Hard. My feet tangled, and I crashed backward onto the patio stones. Pain shot through my hip as the grill smoke burned my eyes. Gravel bit into my palms. "Apologize to my husband," she screamed, standing over me like I was trash she'd knocked down. The backyard went silent. Tyler's baseball dropped from his hands. Our neighbors stared. Darren smirked, flipping another burger like nothing happened. I stayed on the ground, tasting blood where I'd bit my tongue, feeling the shame crawl up my neck like fire. I didn't apologize. Instead, I pushed myself up slowly, my 71-year-old joints screaming protests. Dirt and pebbles stuck to my palms as I wiped them on my jeans. Everyone watched me stand, waiting for words that would never come. Tyler's eyes were wide as dinner plates. My grandson had seen his mother shove his grandfather to the ground like a bully in a schoolyard. The betrayal in his face mirrored what burned in my chest. Melissa's book club friends laughed nervously, the kind of uncomfortable sound people make when they witness something ugly but don't want to get involved. One woman whispered to another behind her wine glass. "Harold, come on," Darren called out, still holding his spatula. "Don't be so sensitive." I looked at my daughter, this stranger who shared my wife's eyes, but none of her kindness. The little girl who used to climb into my lap during thunderstorms had become someone I didn't recognize. I turned and walked toward the gate without saying a word. My chest burned with something heavier than anger, something that felt like steel settling in my bones. That feeling would drive me toward a decision I never thought I'd make. I grabbed my cane from where it leaned against the porch rail, picked up my baseball cap from the picnic table, and left without a word. Nobody followed. The sound of my shoes crunching against the gravel driveway mixed with Darren's laughter echoing behind me. His voice carried across the yard. "Don't worry, folks. Harold gets moody sometimes." More laughter. Like I was the entertainment, the crazy old man who'd lost his mind over nothing. I'd built houses with these hands for 40 years. Fixed cars in my garage until arthritis made me retire. Raised Melissa alone after her mother died when she was 12. I'd never felt smaller in my own family's presence. The walk home took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of replaying that moment, feeling Melissa's hands against my chest, hearing her demand for an apology I didn't know. By the time I reached my front door, something had crystallized inside me. This wouldn't be the final chapter of Harold Martinez's story. Not by a long shot. But the question gnawed at me as I fumbled with my keys. How could I make them regret ever humiliating me like that? Back home, I pulled the photo albums from the hall closet. Box after box of memories I'd kept safe for 30 years. Melissa's first bike, red with white streamers. Her high school graduation, cap tilted sideways because she thought it looked cooler. The night I stayed up until 3 a.m. sewing sequins onto her prom dress because we couldn't afford to buy one. Each page cut deeper than the last. How had the little girl who clung to my hand during thunderstorms grown into someone who shoved me like garbage? The girl who used to say, "I love you, Daddy," every night before bed? I found the picture from her wedding day. Me walking her down the aisle, both of us crying happy tears. She'd whispered, "Thank you for everything, Dad. I'll never forget." But she had forgotten. Completely. I closed the album and sat in my recliner, the same chair where I'd rocked her to sleep when nightmares woke her up. The question that had been eating at me all evening finally had an answer. Maybe I'd been blind all along to who she really was. But then a neighbor's whisper would show me just how wrong I'd been about everything. 2 days later, I was pushing my cart through Miller's grocery when Janet Morrison cornered me by the cereal aisle. She glanced around like she was sharing state secrets, then leaned close. "Harold, I heard what happened at the barbecue," she whispered. "My sister was there." My face burned. "It was nothing, Janet. That's not what I heard." Her voice dropped lower. She said Darren was bragging at Murphy's bar afterward. Said he finally put the old man in his place. My hands tightened on the cart handle until my knuckles went white. The humiliation hadn't stayed in Melissa's backyard. It had spread through town like wildfire, with Darren as the one lighting matches. He actually said that? Laughed about it, too. Said you won't be causing problems anymore. The cereal boxes blurred in front of me. If I didn't act soon, my silence would become my consent. Everyone would think Harold Martinez was just another weak old man who let his family walk all over him. Thanks for telling me, Janet. That evening, as I sat wondering what to do next, an unlikely ally knocked on my door. The knock came just after sunset. I opened the door to find Tyler standing on my porch, his bike parked by my fence. He looked over his shoulder like he was checking for spies. "Grandpa, can I come in?" "Of course, buddy." I stepped aside, noticing how he kept glancing back toward the street. "Everything okay?" He waited until the door closed before speaking. "I don't like how Mom and Darren treat you." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. This kid was only 13, but he'd seen what the adults chose to ignore. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. "It's complicated, Tyler." "No, it's not." His voice was firm, older than his years. "They're mean to you. Really mean. And it's not fair." I sat down on my couch, feeling something crack inside my chest. Not anger this time, but something sharper, more focused. If Tyler could see the truth, maybe others could too. "What do you think we should do about it?" He pulled out his phone with a grin that reminded me of his mother at that age, back when she still loved me. "I want to show you something that changes everything." Tyler slid his phone across my coffee table. The screen showed a video, and my stomach dropped when I recognized the scene. There I was, falling backward onto the patio stones. There was Melissa, standing over me with her hands still extended from the shove. "You recorded it?" "I was taking pictures of my baseball cards by the lemonade stand," he whispered. "When Mom pushed you, I kept recording." The video was crystal clear. You could see everything. My harmless joke about the burgers, Melissa's angry face, the shove, me hitting the ground hard. You could hear her shouting, "Apologize to my husband." You could see Darren's smirk. "They don't know you have this." Tyler shook his head. I was hidden behind the stand. Nobody saw me. I stared at the phone, watching my own humiliation play out in high definition. But this time, instead of shame, I felt something else entirely. Power. "Tyler, this could really help Grandpa. But are you sure you want to get involved? They hurt you. I want to help." In that moment, I knew exactly how to test this new weapon. The next morning, I drove to the library and printed a screenshot from Tyler's video. The image was perfect. Melissa mid-shove, me falling backward, the shock on everyone's faces. I didn't add any words or explanations. The picture told the whole story. I slipped it into an envelope and drove to Melissa's house. Their mailbox sat at the end of their driveway like a hungry mouth. I fed it the envelope and drove away. My phone rang at 8:47 a.m. the next day. "Dad, we need to talk." Melissa's voice was frantic, higher than usual. "Where did you get that picture?" "What picture?" I kept my voice calm, almost bored. "You know what picture. Who took it? Who gave it to you?" The panic in her voice tasted sweeter than maple syrup. For the first time in years, I had something she wanted. Something she feared. "Think about how you treated me, Melissa." "Dad, please. We can talk about this." "Come over in." I hung up. Let her stew in that silence. Let her wonder what else I might have. But Darren wasn't going to take this quietly. That night, around 10 p.m., heavy footsteps pounded up my front porch. The doorbell rang 3 times. Then someone started banging on the door like they wanted to break it down. I looked through the peephole and saw Darren's red face glaring back. His fists were clenched, his jaw tight. He looked like a man ready for a fight. I opened the door, but kept the chain lock engaged. "You think you're smart, old man," he growled. "Trying to ruin my reputation with that picture?" "Reputation?" I almost laughed. "You mean the one where you laughed as your wife shoved her father to the ground?" His face went redder. "That was between family. You had no right to." "To what?" "Show people who you really are." He pressed closer to the door crack. "Take it back. Tell people it was fake or something. Fix this." "Or what?" "Or you'll regret it." I looked at this man who'd married my daughter, who'd turned her against me, who'd laughed at my pain. "Good night, Darren." I closed the door and turned the deadbolt. He stormed off, but I knew this was just the beginning. The real fight was about to begin in writing. 2 days later, a legal envelope appeared in my mailbox. My hands shook as I tore it open, but not from fear. From fury that burned white hot. The letter was typed on expensive letterhead, Worthington and Associates, attorneys at law. Darren was threatening to have me declared mentally unfit and cut off from seeing Tyler. The letter claimed I was unstable and potentially dangerous to family members. Mentally unfit. After 40 years of building houses, raising a daughter alone, managing my own finances and property. Because I wouldn't apologize for a joke about hamburgers. I read the letter 3 times, each word etching itself into my memory. If Darren wanted war, he'd get it. He had money for lawyers. I had something better, the truth. But I needed to be smart about this. One wrong move, and I could lose Tyler forever. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in my desk drawer. Then I reached for my phone and called the one man who'd never steered me wrong in 50 years of friendship. Walt would know what to do. He always did. Walt's garage smelled like motor oil and honesty, same as it had for 30 years. He read Darren's letter twice, then set it down and shook his head. That boy's playing dirty pool, Harold. Tell me something I don't know. Walt wiped his hands on a rag and leaned against his workbench. Remember what we used to do with customers who tried to cheat us? The ones who'd bring in a good engine and claim it was broken. I nodded. We'd let them talk until they tied themselves in knots with their own lies. Exactly. Walt smiled. Don't fight them head on. Use what you've got and make them show who they really are. Let them hang themselves with their own rope. His words reminded me of something we'd learned in the Army. Sometimes the best offense is letting your enemy make the first mistake. I'd been thinking about this all wrong. What do you suggest? Make peace. Invite them over. Let them feel safe enough to show their true colors. I left Walt's garage with a plan forming in my mind. If Darren and Melissa wanted to play games, I'd give them a game they'd never forget. My plan would begin with a simple dinner invitation. I called Melissa that evening, keeping my voice soft and apologetic. Sweetheart, I've been thinking about what happened. Maybe I was out of line with that joke. Silence on the other end. Then, Dad, are you okay? I'm tired of fighting. Can we have dinner? Just the 3 of us? I want to make things right. She hesitated, probably checking with Darren. When? Tomorrow night. I'll cook that pot roast you used to love. Okay. But Dad, no more pictures or drama. We just want a peaceful family dinner. Of course, sweetheart. Just family. After I hung up, I went to my bedroom and pulled out the small digital recorder I'd used for work estimates. The battery was full, the memory card empty. I tested it 3 times to make sure it worked perfectly. If they wanted to talk down to me, this time the world would hear every word. And what they said over dinner would be worse than I ever imagined. I spent all day cooking Melissa's favorite meal. Pot roast with carrots and potatoes, fresh bread rolls, apple pie for dessert. The house smelled like Sunday dinners from when she was little. They arrived at 6 sharp. Melissa wore her fake smile, the one she used at PDA meetings. Darren looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Dad, this smells amazing, Melissa said, hugging me stiffly. We sat at my dining room table, the same one where I'd helped her with homework for 8 years. For 20 minutes, we made small talk about the weather and Tyler's baseball season. Then Darren leaned back in his chair and the mask slipped. You know, Harold, you're lucky we let you around at all. His voice was casual, like he was discussing the weather. One wrong move, and you'll end up in some nursing home, dying alone. Melissa laughed. Actually laughed. Dad always was dramatic. Remember how he used to cry during Disney movies? Under the table, my hand found the recorder in my pocket. The red light blinked steadily. I was catching every cruel word. Now it was time to use it. After they left, I stayed up until 2 a.m. transferring the audio files to my computer. Tyler's video went into the same folder, along with photos of Darren's threatening letter. The next morning, I visited my neighbor across the street. Betty Chun had been the town librarian for 30 years before retiring. She knew everyone and everything that happened in our neighborhood. Betty, I need your help with something. I showed her the video and played 30 seconds of the dinner recording. Her face went white when she heard Darren's nursing home threat. Harold, this is awful. What can I do? Just tell your friends. The ones who like to talk. Betty had a network of retired teachers, church ladies, and neighborhood busybodies who could spread news faster than the internet. By morning, half the town would know the truth about Darren and Melissa. Consider it done, she said, her jaw set with determination. I walked home feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The whispers would start today, and the first phone call came from Melissa before I even reached my front door. My phone rang as I unlocked my front door. Melissa's name flashed on the screen. Dad, what did you do? Her voice was shaking, higher than normal. Mrs. Patterson just called asking if it's true that Darren threatened to put you in a nursing home. I sat down in my recliner, keeping my voice calm. What did you tell her? I told her it was a misunderstanding, but she said she had it from a reliable source. Dad, people are asking questions. Why would you do this to us? For the first time since the barbecue, I didn't hear anger in her voice. Just fear. Pure, undiluted fear that her carefully built reputation was crumbling. You wanted me to apologize, Melissa. This is me answering. That's not an answer. That's, have a good day, sweetheart. I hung up and turned off my phone. Let her stew in that silence. Let her wonder who else was talking, what other evidence I might have. The best part was that I didn't have to do anything else. The truth would spread on its own now. But Tyler was about to drop a bombshell that would change everything. Tyler showed up at my door that evening with red eyes and tear-stained cheeks. I pulled him inside and made hot chocolate while he collected himself. Grandpa, I told my teacher about what happened. My chest tightened. What did you tell her, buddy? Everything. How Mom pushed you. How Darren laughs about it. How they threatened to put you away. He wiped his nose with his sleeve. Mrs. Rodriguez said she has to report it. That it's the law. My hands went still around my coffee mug. If child services got involved, if they started investigating Tyler's home life, Darren's grip on our family could crack wide open. Are you okay at home, Tyler? Do they hurt you too? He looked down at his hands. Sometimes Darren gets really mad. He's never hit me, but he yells a lot. Says mean things. The storm I'd started was bigger than just me now. This was about Tyler's safety, his future. Maybe everything that had happened was leading to this moment. You did the right thing, buddy. Whatever happens next, you did the right thing. The next step would take us straight into the school office. Mrs. Rodriguez called me the next morning. Her voice was professional but kind. Mr. Martinez, I need you to come in for a meeting about Tyler. Can you be here at 2 p.m.? The school office smelled like coffee and copy paper. Tyler sat in a small chair next to the counselor's desk, looking younger than his 13 years. Mrs. Rodriguez was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a serious expression. Mr. Martinez, Tyler has shared some concerning information about his home situation. I need to ask you directly. Do you feel unsafe around your daughter and son-in-law? I looked at Tyler, sitting small in that big chair, and realized this was bigger than my hurt feelings or wounded pride. I feel more unsafe for him than for me. The words hung in the air like smoke. Mrs. Rodriguez scribbled notes, her face grim. I could see her mind working, connecting dots, building a case. We'll need to document everything Tyler has told us. There may be follow-up calls. Walking out of that school, I knew Darren's response would be explosive. I didn't have to wait long. That night, around 9 p.m., fists pounded on my door hard enough to rattle the frame. Open up, you crazy old bastard. Darren's voice carried across the neighborhood. I looked through the peephole and saw him pacing my porch like a caged animal. His face was purple with rage, his hair disheveled. You're poisoning my son against me, he roared at the door. Tyler was fine until you started filling his head with lies. I didn't answer. Instead, I held up my phone to the window and started recording. When Darren saw what I was doing, his face twisted with fury. You think you're so smart? You think this is over? He kicked my trash can, sending it clattering across the driveway. Then he grabbed my garden gnome and hurled it against my garage door. It shattered into pieces. I'll make you pay for this, he screamed, pointing at my window. You have no idea who you're messing with. He sped off, tires squealing against asphalt. But this time, his threats were captured in perfect digital clarity. Officer Johnson and Officer Williams arrived at 10 a.m. sharp. They were polite but serious, the kind of cops who'd seen everything and weren't easily impressed. Mr. Martinez, we got a call about harassment. You want to file a statement about what happened last night. I handed them my phone with Darren's tirade ready to play. We sat at my kitchen table while they watched the video twice, taking notes. This guy's got anger management issues, Officer Johnson muttered. You've got enough here to press charges if you want, Officer Williams said. Destruction of property, threats, harassment. We can pick him up today. I thought about Tyler, about what would happen if his stepfather went to jail, about Melissa, who was probably scared out of her mind. Let me think about it. Can I call you later? Sure thing. But Mr. Martinez? Keep your doors locked. Guys like this sometimes escalate. After they left, I sat with my coffee and thought about power. For the first time in years, I held all the cards. And Melissa was about to beg me face to face. The knock came soft this time, almost hesitant. I opened the door to find Melissa standing on my porch with streaked makeup and red eyes. She looked like she'd aged 10 years since the barbecue. "Dad, please. Can we talk?" I let her in, but didn't offer coffee. We sat in my living room like strangers. "Dad, you have to stop this. Darren's losing his mind. He hasn't slept in 3 days. He keeps saying you're trying to destroy us." For a brief moment, I saw the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, begging me to chase away the monsters. Then I remembered her hands against my chest, the sound of my body hitting stone. "Are you asking me to stop, or are you telling me?" "I'm begging you." Her voice cracked. "Whatever you want, we'll do it. Just please stop." I looked at this woman who'd pushed me down and demanded I apologize, who'd laughed at threats about nursing homes, who'd let her husband call me names and destroy my property. "I'm not sure what you mean, Melissa." She stared at me, finally understanding that her daddy wasn't going to save her anymore. Soon, the whole town would know the truth. Sunday morning came bright and clear. I put on my best suit, the navy blue one I wore to church every week for the past 5 years. But today felt different. The whispers started before I even reached the sanctuary. People glanced at me, then at Melissa and Darren sitting stiff in their usual pew across the aisle. You could cut the tension with a knife. After the service, Pastor Williams approached me in the fellowship hall. His face was troubled but kind. "Harold, I've been hearing things around town. Disturbing things about family conflicts." "Yes, Pastor. If you want to speak to the congregation, if you need the church family's support, we're here to listen." My heart pounded. This was bigger than I planned. This would make everything public, permanent, real. I looked across the room at Melissa, who was watching our conversation with growing panic. "Pastor, I think I would like to say something." "Next Sunday then, after the regular service." When I took that pulpit the following week, I didn't hold back. The sanctuary was fuller than usual. Word had spread that Harold Martinez had something to say, and in a town our size, that was better than cable television. I stood behind the podium where I'd listened to sermons about forgiveness and family for 5 years. Today, I was delivering my own sermon. "I'm not here for pity," I began, my voice carrying clearly through the silent room. "I'm here because no elder should be pushed down, mocked, or silenced by their own family." I didn't mention names. I didn't need to. Every eye in the room had shifted to where Melissa sat with her face buried in her hands. "I'm here because respect isn't something you can demand. It's something you earn. And I'm here because the truth, even when it's ugly, is better than a comfortable lie." The gasps and turned heads told me everything I needed to know. Half the congregation was staring at Melissa and Darren with disgust. The other half was staring at me with something that looked like admiration. When I finished, the silence was absolute. But Darren's downfall was only just beginning. The next week, reality hit Darren where it hurt most: his wallet. Word had spread through the construction community about his behavior. 3 clients canceled contracts. His biggest project, a house renovation for the Hendersons, was put on hold indefinitely. They said they couldn't trust someone with anger management issues, Betty Chin told me when she brought over fresh cookies. "The whole town's talking, Harold." Darren's truck sat idle in their driveway for days. I drove past their house on my way to the grocery store and saw him sitting on his porch, staring at nothing. Melissa's calls came softer now, her voice edged with desperation rather than anger. "Dad, please. Darren can't find work. People won't return his calls." But I ignored them all. Silence was my sharpest weapon now, more cutting than any words I could have spoken. The man who'd laughed at my humiliation was learning what real humiliation felt like. Until Tyler showed up at my door with a bag that changed everything. The knock came at dinner time on a Thursday. I opened the door to find Tyler standing on my porch with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder and tears streaming down his face. "Grandpa, Mom told me to stay here for a while." I pulled him inside and saw the finger-shaped bruises on his upper arm, dark purple against his pale skin. My stomach dropped to my shoes. "Tyler, who did this to you?" "Darren." He grabbed me really hard when I wouldn't tell him what I said at school. I knelt down to his level, my old knees protesting. "Did he hit you anywhere else?" "No, but he was yelling so loud the neighbors came outside. Mom got scared and told me to come here." I looked at this kid, my grandson, carrying everything he owned in a canvas bag because his home wasn't safe anymore. The war I'd started with Darren might have just saved Tyler from something much worse. You're staying here as long as you need to, buddy. Forever if that's what it takes. That night, watching Tyler sleep peacefully on my couch for the first time in weeks, I realized this had never really been about revenge. And then came the call that sealed Darren's fate. Friday night, my phone rang at 11:47 p.m. Officer Johnson's voice was tired but professional. "Mr. Martinez, thought you should know. We picked up Darren Williams about an hour ago. Bar fight at Murphy's. Guy had too much to drink and started swinging when someone mentioned your name." I looked at Tyler, asleep on my couch with his baseball glove clutched in his hands. "What happens now?" "He's cooling off in a cell. Assault charges, public intoxication, probably looking at 30 days minimum. His wife's been calling, asking about bail." At 6 a.m. the next morning, Melissa called. "Dad, please. I need $2,000 for Darren's bail. I don't have anyone else to ask." I listened to her plead for 5 minutes, her voice breaking as she promised things would be different, that Darren would get help, that they'd all respect me from now on. When she finished, I gave her my answer. No. The man who once laughed at my humiliation was now trapped in a cell, and I wasn't lifting a finger to help him. Justice had a way of finding its own path. Revenge was complete, but watching Tyler sleep safely in my house, I realized the real story was just beginning.